Karen's scream echoed through the auto shop like a banshee's wail. So shrill it could have cracked the windshield she was fighting over. "It's mine, you thief!" she shrieked, jabbing a manicured finger at Jake, the 24-year-old mechanic who just wanted to finish his shift and go home. The whole mess started over a $15 windshield shade, but in this dusty corner of Mill Creek, Ohio, it had spiraled into a feud that split the town like a fault line. Karen, with her bleach-blonde bob and a purse that cost more than Jake's rent, had become the town's self-appointed enforcer of justice. But this time, her crusade was about to crash harder than a fender bender on I-70. It was a blistering July afternoon when Karen stormed into Jake's auto repair, her SUV parked crooked across two spaces. She'd bought a used windshield shade from Jake's shop a week earlier, a cheap silver fold-up to keep her car cool. But when she saw an identical shade in Jake's beat-up pickup truck, her mind spun a conspiracy. "You stole it back to resell it," she accused, ignoring Jake's calm explanation that he'd had his own shade for years. Karen didn't listen. She never did. She snatched the shade from his truck, tossed it into her SUV, and peeled out, leaving Jake stunned and the shop's regulars whispering. By sundown, she'd posted a 500-word rant on the town's Facebook group, calling Jake a lowlife crook and rallying her followers to boycott his shop. Jake, a quiet kid who'd inherited the shop from his dad, wasn't built for drama. He fixed cars, not egos. But Karen's post went viral in Mill Creek's tiny online bubble, and soon, his phone buzzed with cancellations. "I can't afford to lose business over a $15 shade," he told his buddy Mike over beers that night, his voice tight with worry. Mike, a part-time deputy, suggested small claims court. "She's gotta learn, man. You can't just take people's stuff and call it justice." Jake hesitated. Suing a customer felt like burning his own shop down, but when Karen doubled down with a second post claiming he'd threatened her, he filed the claim. The shade wasn't just a shade anymore. It was his livelihood. The courtroom was a pressure cooker by the time the case hit the docket. Mill Creek's gossip mill had churned for weeks, splitting neighbors into camps. Team Karen, who saw her as a righteous warrior against shady businesses, and Team Jake, who knew him as the guy who'd fix your car for free if you were broke. Karen arrived in court like she was auditioning for a reality show, her heels clicking on the linoleum, a smirk plastered across her face. Jake sat quietly, his work boots scuffed, his hands folded to hide the grease stains that never quite washed out. The judge, Martha Grayson, was a no-nonsense woman who'd seen every flavor of small-town drama in her 20 years on the bench. She adjusted her glasses and called the room to order, her gaze slicing through Karen's bravado like a hot knife. Karen's defense was a masterclass in self-righteous chaos. "Your Honor, this boy's been ripping people off for years," she declared, waving her arms like a preacher at a revival. She produced a crumpled receipt for her shade, claiming it proved Jake had swapped it for a defective one. The crowd murmured, some nodding along. Karen's friends, a trio of women in matching yoga pants, sat in the back, live-tweeting the showdown with hashtags like Justice for Karen. But Jake's evidence was simpler. A time-stamped photo of his truck with the shade, taken months before Karen's purchase. "I didn't steal anything," he said, his voice steady but raw. "She took my property and trashed my name." The tension peaked when Karen interrupted Jake mid-sentence. "You're lying," she shouted, slamming her hand on the table. The bailiff stepped forward, but Judge Grayson's gavel cracked like thunder. "Ms. Thompson, you will sit down and respect this court, or I'll hold you in contempt," she snapped. The room went silent, every eye locked on Karen's flushed face. For the first time, her smirk faltered. Jake's lawyer, a pro bono guy from the next town over, leaned forward. "Your Honor, Ms. Thompson's actions caused my client measurable financial loss. Her online posts led to $3,000 in canceled appointments." He slid a stack of printed screenshots across the table. Karen's rants, dripping with venom, each one shared dozens of times. Karen tried to pivot, claiming Jake's shop was unsanitary and a danger to the community. She even pulled out a blurry photo of a greasy rag on the shop floor, as if it were a smoking gun. But Judge Grayson wasn't buying it. "This case isn't about your feelings, Ms. Thompson," she said, her voice icy. It's about property and defamation. She turned to Jake. Mr. Larson, do you have anything to add? Jake took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly. I just want my life back, he said. I'm not a thief. I'm just trying to keep my dad's shop alive. The crowd shifted, a ripple of sympathy moving through the room. Even some of Karen's supporters looked uneasy. Her crusade, once a rallying cry, now felt like a vendetta. The judge leaned back, her face unreadable, and delivered her ruling. Ms. Thompson, you had no legal right to take Mr. Larson's property, nor to publicly defame him without evidence. She ordered Karen to return the shade, pay Jake $3,500 in damages, and cover court costs. Gasps echoed from the back. Karen's jaw dropped, her eyes wide with disbelief. This is outrageous, she sputtered, but the gavel slammed again, silencing her. As the courtroom emptied, Jake stood outside, staring at the shade in his hands. It was just a cheap piece of fabric, but it had nearly cost him everything. Karen, meanwhile, stormed out, muttering about an appeal. Her friends trailed behind, their phones now silent. The town's Facebook group exploded that night, but the tide had turned. Karen's posts were mocked, her justice exposed despite. Jake's shop saw a surge in customers, many bringing coffee or homemade pies as apologies for doubting him. But the victory felt hollow. I didn't want to fight her, he told Mike later, his voice heavy. I just wanted to work. Weeks later, Karen moved to a neighboring town, her reputation in tatters. Jake kept the shade in his truck, a reminder of how quickly trust can fray. Mill Creek settled back into its quiet rhythm, but the scars of the feud lingered. Neighbors eyed each other warily, wondering who'd be the next to draw a line in the sand over something as small as a windshield shade. The story of Karen and Jake isn't just about a stolen shade, it's about how fast a spark of misunderstanding can burn a community down. It's about the cost of pride, the weight of truth, and the fragile line between justice and vengeance. What do you think? Who was right, who was wrong, and where do we draw the line when a feud tears us apart? Share your thoughts, because in a town like Mill Creek, every story has two sides, and the truth is rarely simple.